Hello, and welcome to Cat's Whiskers.
Tonight it's the last week of our great CWTT, the Cat's Whiskers Treasure Trail. So be ready with maps, pen and paper to see if you can discover the whereabouts of Bill Torrance on his final trip.
We also have our last interview with Fairground attraction, backstage at the Theatre Royal Nottingham.
And Esther Rantzen impersonates a pterodactyl as our birthday guest.
Also, the final Kitty Purwell mystery for this series. But first, the results of Who Framed Roger Dogsbody. Now, this was a difficult one. Some of you thought it was Billy and Willie Crackit, and some thought it was Tabitha Krusty. But the culprit was, in fact,
Tracy Tanner, the cinema usherette. So let's choose 3 winners. And the first one is Helen Clark from Essex.
The second is Henry Mance from London.
And the third is, we've got a joint one here, Rebecca and Polly Evenden from South Britain, Kent. Congratulations to you all. We'll be sending you fingerprinting kits.
Now on to tonight's mystery. I hope you've got your pens and paper ready for Blue Murder on the Spamchester Express.
The name's Purwell, Kitty Purwell, private eye ace detective and trusted member of the Spamchester Secret Service. When the security of the country's at stake and the chips are down, then it's time to call in Kitty Purwell, Special Agent 007 and a half.
Here, Kitty. Kitty? Hang on a minute, you haven't told me what we're doing here in the High Street. What's going on?
Quick, Dogsbody, while no one's looking, into the telephone box. Hurry!
Hey? What's going on?
Get in, will you?
But you got a telephone at home, KP.
This is no ordinary call box, Dogsbody. Watch this.
Ah! The old phone box is sinking into the pavement. We're going down. Help, let us out.
Steady, old fellow. It's only a lift. This is the hidden entrance to the underground headquarters of the Spamchester Secret Service.
Good.
It's quite simple. Let me explain. This morning, when I woke up, there was a bleep on my extension.
Perhaps you should see a doctor about that, KP.
No. It was a call on the hotline from HQ. We've come to see why.
Come to see why what?
No, we've come to see why. Why is the person in charge?
You mean why fronts the Spamchester Secret Service?
Exactly. Ah, here we are. Come on.
Ah, 007 and a half. You made it.
Reporting for duty, sir. So what's the assignment this time?
It's a tricky one, 007 and a half. A devilishly dangerous mission. You've heard of Emil Fishfinger?
You mean that dastardly power-mad evil genius who gloats at the misery and misfortune of others, whose only aim is to take over the world?
That's the chap.
Never heard of him.
What's Fishfinger up to this time? Why?
That bad egghead has come up with a despicable plot to release killer tadpoles into the River Thames. As soon as they turn into frogs, they've been programmed to climb out of the water, jump into the Houses of Parliament, and gobble up the Prime Minister.
Ooh, how horrible.
Even as we speak, one of Fishfinger's agents is on his way to London, carrying the deadly consignment of fiendish froglets. Now, that agent must be stopped, and you are the only one who can do it, 007 and a half.
Leave it to me, why? Now, who exactly is this agent we're after?
Now, that we don't know. The only clue we have is this telegram from one of our chaps, O.O. Antonio. Here.
Let me see. Agent will be travelling down tonight on Spamchester Express. Stop. But beware. Stop. This agent has a long wart.
A long wart? What does that mean, KP?
Don't know, old chap. As you can see, the end of the message is missing.
Sorry about that, 007 and a half. My pet hamster, Oddjob, chewed off the bottom of the telegram. Never mind. You'll just have to get on the train and use your brilliant deductive powers to work out who the agent is. Now, you better get going. The Spamchester Express leaves in precisely 4.5 minutes.
We're on our way.
Just made it, KP.
Well, there don't seem to be many passengers. That makes our job a bit easier.
So, all we have to do is to go through all the carriages until we spot a shifty-looking character with a long wart carrying a jar full of tadpoles. Shouldn't be too hard.
Right. We'll start with that chap sitting over there with the binoculars. I say, you there?
Oh, hello.
You'll never guess what I've just seen. A Class 50 diesel electric 50023. Oh, made my day, that has.
You what?
Sorry, getting a bit carried away. I'm a train spotter. I have a pimple. How do you do?
Very well, thank you. Now, Mr. Pimple.
Oh, look! There goes an SD402.
Mr. Pimple, we would like to ask you a few questions.
Oh?
Now, what does the name Fish Finger mean to you?
He's not a train spotter, is he?
Of course he's not a train spotter. He's a raving mad maniac. He wants to take over the world.
Well, I'm not interested in all that. Now, did I tell you about the 370 PTP with a step-down transformer and thyristor-based control system?
Right, Dogsbody. Let's try that old gentleman with the moustache and medals. Hello there. Mind if we join you?
Eh, what? Oh, yes, sit yourselves down. Hang on while I just move my thermos flask and sandwiches. Right then. I'm Cornplaster, Colonel Cornplaster. How can I help you? What?
Well, we were just wondering whether you were a deadly secret agent working for that warp mastermind, Fish Finger.
Very tactful, Dogsbody.
How dare you, sir? I've never heard of this fish finger fella. What a suggestion. I fought in 2 world wars, you know. Got a wartime record as long as your leg. Look at these medals, sir. Look.
So you don't know anything about killer tadpoles, I presume?
I know nothing about killer tadpoles, and I've never heard of Emil Fish Finger. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to the buffet to get myself a cup of tea. Good day to you both. Ha!
Only one more passenger to interview, Dogsbody.
Yes. That punky-looking girl with the orange spiky hair, the ring through her nose.
Right, let's go. Excuse me, miss.
I can't hear you with these headphones on. What do you want?
Well, we'd like to ask you a few questions.
I don't do interviews. You have to ring up my manager.
Look, we just need to know who you are.
What? You mean you don't recognise me? I'm Veruca Vile. You must have heard of Veruca Vile and the Blackheads.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I saw you on Top of the Pops last week. You were great. Can I have your autograph, please?
There you go.
Cool. So very much.
Now, Miss Vile, as I was saying...
Look, I'm sorry. I don't do interviews, and that's that. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Well, that's it then, KP. We've got a Cornplaster, a Veruca, and a Pimple. Which one do we pick?
No problems, Dee Dee. I have all the information I need.
What? You mean you know who it is? Oh, you're brilliant, you are, KP. Absolutely brilliant.
So, which one of the passengers is Fish Finger's secret agent? And how is he or she carrying the deadly tadpoles to town?
Could it be Dotty Train Spotter Either Pimple, crotchety Colonel Cornplaster, or punk popster Veruca Vile? Send your answers to Cat's Whiskers as soon as possible.
Our birthday guest this week is Esther Rantzen. Esther, welcome to Cat's Whiskers.
Thank you very much.
That's Life has become a bit of a sort of British institution. It's been going for 16 years. Did you envisage doing something like that when you were a child?
No, I didn't at all, no. When I was very little, I thought that I would like to be a nightclub singer. There was a film that came out called Carmen Jones, and I rather saw myself as Carmen Jones, and I used to sing her rather sultry songs. And I continued with that ambition until my voice broke. And I developed at about 16 the most appalling baritone voice, which I will demonstrate. Carmen Jones sang this wonderful song, which says, "You go for me, and I'm taboo, but if you're hard to get, I go for you." Anyway, I used to sing that on the hockey pitches, and even then I could shatter windows at a distance of about 15 feet. So I decided perhaps nightclub singing wasn't for me.
So how did the BBC come along? Because I gather you started in sound effects.
I did.
And were you actually making sound effects?
I was.
And did you ever get stuck on one? Sort of have to make a
I had to make some quite complicated ones. In fact, I was very good at a pterodactyl. Do you want me to do
Oh,
a
let's hear a pterodactyl,
All right.
yes, please.
Hang on a minute.
Right,
The
what
good
have you
thing
got?
about this, I've got a rather bright umbrella. There are not many people alive who can tell you whether a pterodactyl really does sound like this.
This is true.
But I just put the umbrella up. Now, this is a low-flying pterodactyl. As you see, you can take out several people's eyes with that, but never mind.
I think I've come to the conclusion that you have got a mad sense of humour, you know, Esther. Do you need it for That's Life?
No, we do daft things, and it is absolutely true that the reason we do them is we think they're funny. I think it's amazing that somebody trained his dog to say, sausages. When we found that dog, everywhere I went, people would say to me, sausages.
The thing is, I mean, you're not just being silly on That's Life. You really are looking after the consumer, aren't you? People who can't perhaps talk for themselves. Is that important to you?
It is. If you had it all serious, then they'd say that's a very good programme, but I don't think I quite want to watch it tonight. If you had it all funny, they'd say, can't think what this programme's for.
Don't you ever sit down and think, oh, I wish I hadn't started all this? Because you're involved with so many things.
I do think perhaps if at the beginning someone had said to me, you know, it'll be 16 years of That's Life, or someone had said to me, you know, Childline, 0800 1111 isn't just going to be for a week. It's going to be maybe forever. And it's going to provide a lifeline for children who have no one else to turn to. I think if people had said that to me, I would have said, I think just for the moment I'll go and have a quiet nap. And then I'll tell you whether I'll do it when I wake up.
Are you going to have any sort of party for your birthday, Esther?
We've always had birthday tables in the morning. We've always had the thing where you come down and there is a table all laid out with your presents and the cake and the flowers. We've always done that. And I was always very lucky because my birthday's in June. I've always had sunny birthday parties. We normally have a tiny weeny bash, about 200, 250 people, with a string quartet and a small brass band. And it marches in playing Happy Birthday. All my aunts and uncles start dancing to it.
What are you going to wear?
I think I shall wear pink trousers. Well, if you can't wear pink trousers on your birthday, when can you? And it seems somehow right, because there's a chance there may be a hot air balloon for me to climb into.
What about some music for your birthday? What would you like?
Well, I've been thinking very hard about that, and I think I would love a very beautiful tune. It's called Chanson de Matin, and it's by Elgar. And I'd like it because it just reminds me of sunshine and England and a most beautiful morning, June morning. But also because it reminds me of That's Life. We've used it on 2 films. One, there was a lovely scene of a fox playing with a dog and running through the grass and having the most beautiful time, and the sun in its fur, and it looked lovely, and this music was perfect. And once we filmed a pig that thought it was a dog, and somehow this music was right for that too.
Whiskers Club members who share their birthday with Esther Rantzen are Simon Phillips, John Raffaelli, Dorian Cusson and Philip Lee.
David Hellier, Thomas Lambert, Michael Shord and Robin Fraser.
Emily Hayto, Julia Strong, Charlotte McNamara and Christopher Fairs.
Caroline Spendlove-Mason, Claire Haley, Brian Nisbet and Geoffrey Rigby.
Happy birthday to Katrina Rotherham, Elaine Byrne, Michael Hornby and Edward Kirkwood.
Rose Boyle, Malcolm Smith, Christopher Wright and Elizabeth Muldoon.
And lastly to Vicky Eaton, Antonia Oxley Vasquez and James Buckley. Happy birthday to everyone celebrating this week.
Now for the final part of our great CWTT. If you've got all the clues so far, you've got a good chance of winning our first prize, which is a family break at Centre Park, Selvden Forest. Runners-up will receive family tickets at the Tower of London, and you'll all be travelling there by National Express coach.
Hello again, it's Bill here, and we're nearly there. Nearly there. Only one more journey. one last place on the treasure trail. I can hardly wait to give you this week's clue. It's a real nasty one. Now, none of you are going to get it. So, here's the clue. Don't go by sea, but follow this clue. Look out for flint in search of a crew. Then 5 in 1. That's a pottery town. Find the river and follow it down. On one of its banks, you should find a place famed for its sheriff, a castle and lace. Nearby in the forest of outlaws and leisure, search for an oak and discover the treasure. If I haven't already found it first. Bet you thought I wasn't here then. Wherever we are. See, I'm not getting any help at all this time. I'm not even going to tell you that I'm in a city, nor that the treasure in the forest is not far away. I'm not going to tell you either of those things. Just give you the clue again. Don't go by sea, but follow this clue. Look out for flint in search of a crew. Then 5 in 1. That's a pottery town. Find the river and follow it down. On one of its banks, you should find a place famed for its sheriff, a castle and lace. Nearby in the forest of outlaws and leisure, search for an oak and discover the treasure. That's why the question's really easy today. What is the name of the forest? What is the name of the forest? That's it then. 6 places, 6 questions. Now all I have to do is sit back and wait for the prize. Unless one of you goes and wins it. Kitty bye.
Oh, that's got to have been the easiest clue so far. I'm sure we've both got that one right this time.
Well, maybe, Julie. But if you've got this week's answer, you now should have 6 place names and the answers to 6 questions on your treasure trail form. In case most of you get all the answers right, there's one thing more for you to do. On the back of the form, we'd like you to write a poem, or draw a picture on the theme of forests.
A real one or a magical forest? In fact, forests from anywhere or any place. Whatever forests means to you. And please don't forget to put your name and address on the form before you send it to us. Tonight we're going backstage at the Theatre Royal Nottingham, where Dave Shannon talks to Eddie and Mark of Fairground Attraction and their tour manager to find out what life on tour is really like.
I don't want a hearted love affairs. I need someone who really cares.
About 1 million people have bought your records, and most of them want to see you performing. Do you enjoy playing live?
Yeah, it's great when you play a song and they start clapping, you know, the first line of it all.
Yeah, playing live's fine to perform.
Which of the new songs are getting the best reaction?
Broken by a Breeze and Home to Heartache, innit?
And we've got another one called The Waltz Continues, which gets a better reaction than Home to Heartache sometimes.
Oh, Johnny, just stop where you are. Will you listen to us? We're supposed to be friends, so how come that each time we talk it ends up like this? You say you're right, and I say you're wrong, 'cause I know I'm right, and you say my logic is totally gone, and the walls continue.
Kathy Bryce, you're Fairground Attractions tour manager. Just talk us through a typical day on the road.
The crew members will travel overnight in their bus, which has beds on it, so everyone can sleep fairly well. Then they'll start setting everything up from 10 in the morning till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Meanwhile, I'll be travelling with the band members. We'll have checked in the hotel, and around 4 o'clock we get to the concert hall. And then the sound check starts, which normally lasts for about 2 hours, to make sure that the sound is as near to perfect as possible. And then 9 o'clock we're on stage, we do the concert. A couple of hours after we finish, people normally make it to bed.
Do you do the job differently because you're a woman?
Definitely. I care more.
Bit like a mum?
Oh, most definitely. I am mum to everyone, and in fact, we are a family on the road. You're living together, you're eating together, you have to smell everyone's smelly socks, and we look after each other. We've just had a couple of birthday parties, we've blown up balloons, we've had party poppers and bought nice presents for the people whose birthdays it was. In fact, we're all very happy together.
Do you have a favourite song from their new ones?
I like Don't Be a Stranger.
When you're on the road, you're away from your home constantly, and you're living in a bus and a hotel room, a different one every night, so that isn't fun.
I think it'd be really nice to do 2 or 3 a week, just where you could go home, just up the road.
In the evening, getting the peaks and trying to run yourself down after the gig so you can get to sleep is very hard. You usually don't get to sleep till about 4 in the morning, and then I have to get up at 8:30.
It's hard work and it's exhausting, but it's a good laugh, really. It's the best job I've ever had. There's no doubt about it.
It's got to be Thank you! Thank you very much for listening! God bless you!
And if you want to hear more of Fairground Attractions music, they're in concert on Radio 1 this Friday.
Now for episode 9 of our serial The House of Arden. 2 white cats and a polar bear.
When the shepherd boy, coming to tend his flock, saw a boy, 2 cats, and a strange white polar bear sort of animal sitting under a tree, he was quite surprised. He would, of course, have been nothing short of astounded to know that the polar bear was none other than Mouldiwarp, and that the 2 cats were in fact 2 children, named Edred and Elfrida, who were being helped in their search for their father by their cousin Richard.
The shepherd boy is coming towards us. Now remember, you 2, you're cats. Good afternoon.
Get him to take us into the city.
Oh, do shush, Mouldy. You're not supposed to be heard speaking either. Hello there. Fine sheep you have, shepherd.
Oh?
May I introduce you to my animals?
Mouldiwarp, politer than usual, stood up on his hind legs and bowed gravely to the wide-eyed shepherd boy. Edred and Elfrida then each offered a white paw to be shaken, at which the shepherd boy's surprised expression turned to one of delight and then amusement. Soon the little party were being led by the boy, who was determined to show off his find of these clever creatures, into the strange and exotic city.
I've never seen such wonderful buildings in all my life.
It's the gardens I like best. Do you realise, Edred, some of these flowers are made of silver and gold?
Do you really think Father and Uncle Jim are somewhere here?
Will you 2 be quiet? The boy seems to be leading us towards that palace. Now remember, no talking, and only do things when I tell you to. You're supposed to be tame cats.
Inside the great hall into which the shepherd boy led them were crowds of people, all dressed in flowing robes of glowing colour. The crowd hushed and drew aside as the boy proudly led his party towards a raised platform, on which sat a splendid dark-faced man, dressed in silks and wearing a jewel-studded turban.
He must be the king.
But Edred and Elfrida were far more interested in the 2 men dressed in fine robes who sat at either side of the king.
Edred, it's Father and Uncle Jim.
Shush, you 2.
But already Edred and Elfrida had run forward and were rubbing their white cat bodies against their father's legs. Since they couldn't speak without giving the game away, they could at least purr their delight at being so close to the father they had thought never to see again.
Your Majesty, with your permission, my bear and cats will perform for your pleasure.
These animals will obey you.
Yes, sire. If your musicians could play. Come, my little cats. A dance for His Majesty.
The children obeyed and joined Mouldiwarp in a stately dance. And Edred didn't feel at all as silly as he might, since he wasn't himself but a clever cat. In fact, he quite enjoyed strutting about to the obvious delight and amusement of the king and his subjects. When the dance ended, the king and his people clapped and called loud bravos. And then the king rose and, with a smile that said how much he'd enjoyed the entertainment, began to leave. The children's father and Uncle Jim began also to make their way out of the hall.
We must follow your father and uncle, and I'll try to get a word with them alone. Quickly now, come on. Sir, please, sir, may I speak with you?
Yes, young man, what is it? We enjoyed your performing animals.
Yes, your little cats are very clever.
Please, you must listen. There isn't much time. My name's Richard, and I have come to rescue you.
Rescue us?
But you don't even know who we are.
I do. I can't tell you how, but I do. You're Lord Arden.
No. My name is Arden, but I am not a
Believe
lord.
me, you are Lord Arden now. The old lord is dead.
What?
Now, my animals and I can get you out if you do exactly as I say.
Well, what do you think, Jim? Is it worth trying?
It's risky.
I know, but I must try, for the children's sake. And think of Edith.
I am. But you do know that if we try and fail, they'll kill us both.
You won't fail, I promise.
But since you and your animals got into the city, you must know there's only one way out, and that it's guarded by at least 100 men all armed with poisoned arrows.
No, there's another way.
Another way? We thought there was only the entrance we came in by.
We came across it accidentally when we were prospecting for gold. They've kept us prisoner in the city ever since.
The people here are determined not to let the outside world know about the existence of this place.
Every king who comes to the throne here takes an oath that he will die sooner than allow the city to be infected by modern civilization.
And we have a wonderful life here. We're free to do anything but leave. But of course, Jim and I could never be truly happy here. We miss my sister Edith and my children too much.
Well, I'll help you return to them.
What?
Now, you see that black chink in the cliffside over there?
That crevice, yes?
Be there, both of you, at moonrise.
To Edred and Elfrida, waiting for their father and Uncle Jim to come seemed just about the longest time of their lives. But as the city darkened and the silver light of the moon grew, their father and uncle joined them at the foot of the vast cliff that formed the natural wall to the city.
Are you sure you can get us out this way? The cliff is so high.
It's all right. Mouldy, I mean the bear, will carry you up the crevice.
All right then, Jim. You first. I'll wait here, and the bear can take me next.
Mouldiwarp carried Uncle Jim on his strong bear-like shoulders up to the cliff top, and then returned to where Lord Arden sat, waiting, and stroking the two white cats, who were, of course, had he but known it, his own two children. Lord Arden was about to suggest that Richard be the next to be carried up the cliff, but then...
Lord Arden, look!
What?
It looks as if there's torches being lit in the city.
Yes. And as they watched, 1,000 torches sprang into life, and shouts could be heard drifting across the night air. They all knew that the worst had happened. Their flight had been discovered.
Well, now Adrian and Elfrida have found their father, will they be able to get back to their own country? Find out next week in the final episode of The House of Arden.
It's also the final Cat's Whiskers for this series, and we'll be out of the studio and in Sherwood Forest for the programme.
And I believe we'll be on bikes, Julie.
One bike, Adrian, a tandem.
Well, in that case, I'm on the back.
All right. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
The address for your treasure trail entries and whodunits is Cat's Whiskers, BBC, P.O. Box 40, Manchester M60 1FR. Cat's Whiskers was presented by Julie First and Adrian Moorhouse. The researcher was Liz Roberts, and the programme was produced in Manchester by Mary KALEMKERIAN.